Hey gang, welcome back to Joe Daddy's Garage. Today's video is part 6 in the Cobra Jet series. Now hopefully you've seen the other videos in the series and you know what I'm dealing with as far as a rusty car. I'm trying to salvage any original parts that I can that make it more valuable in a sense to the owner and to the, let's say, restoration. Some of these pieces, you may look at them and go, well, that's not worth saving, or that's too far gone, but I'm going to try my best to save anything that I can from this car. So in a previous video, I removed the shock towers, and prior to that, I removed the core support, and I'm still kind of working on those parts as I move forward. I did use, in the previous video, I put a GoPro on my head, and I had some people comment they liked it a lot. Some people commented they didn't like it because I was moving around so much and so quick, and it made it a little uncomfortable for them. So let me just show you, currently I have this head strap thing that you put on the GoPro on top of your head, and I ran into some problems with that where the battery was dying and I didn't know that it was dying. So I bought this thing. It's a big battery cell thing. And I've also got a chest strap. So I'm going to be trying this a little bit differently. We'll be having this on my chest and trying to film. I may do some on my head, but I will be using this probably a little bit more than I have been. Well, more than I have been because I haven't used it at all. But that's the goal moving forward. So let me show you the status right now and what the plan is moving forward. Okay, let's see how this works. So this is the passenger side shock tower, rear apron, and like I said in the previous video, I took all this apart, but I want to show you some things that I have to deal with. One is this hole right here. That is where they had taken a torch and cut that open. So I'm going to have to rebuild that. Some of the other things are where the holes or the welds were, let's say, in the bracing that went on the side of this. I'm going to have to weld some of these holes shut, grind them back down, smooth them out. Minor things like that. I will have to straighten some flanges here and here, and also probably make a piece to fill in right here to repair the bottom edge of this apron. The other thing I'll have to do is take out or cut off, let's say, the top half of this part of the apron because it has a lot of rust in it, and I will use the one that's in the new piece, cut that off, and build this back. Otherwise, there are some things here that will be, have to be addressed. There's some scratches. There is some pitting that I need to weld those up and grind them back down, smooth it out as best I can. I'll have to remove this piece of the forward apron, get that out of the way, and just kind of straighten up whatever is here and work with it. I need to do that to both pieces, and I also will need to remove the aprons out of both of these pieces. Now, I will point out, I built this jig, and when I first put everything together, I just loosely placed everything on the boat trailer jig that I built. And what I have done is I came back and I put bolts, and I had the bolts in there, but I put nuts on to hold everything rigid. And I will say this is very rigid at this point. Very happy with how this is working. This side's not bolted tight. This is to show you it can move, but with this side tight, it doesn't move. So I will progress through this and get these apart. I will be saving the forward aprons off of both of these, and then also sectioning off the rear ones as well. So it's going to be a lot of drilling and a lot of separation, kind of like what I did with the car itself up there. So I gotta pivot my hips to show you that angle there. So anyway, that's the plan. I'm going to get started on this. We'll see how far along I can get, cleaning this up and show you various things that I'll use to do that. I don't know if this works well having it on my chest. By the time you do something, you twist, and you can't see what I'm hitting. May have to experiment. I also don't know how much it's shaking, because I see it shaking on my chest. There we go. That's working. I don't know if this angle works very well for this. I may have to change my approach, because it's really hard to show you when I'm doing stuff that's sideways. Well, I'm a little concerned with this one. I may have to have a talk with the owner and see what we're going to do on that. Okay, now that I see some of this corrosion here, I'm going to have a talk with the owner to see what we're going to do about that. I can weld that and rebuild that and grind it down. That's not that big of a concern. The only thing I'm really concerned with is what's underneath these straps, but I think this has been more exposed, so that may not be a problem at all underneath there. However, I'm going to transition from cleaning this up and taking that apart. I will continue to cut that piece off right there. But I talked to my sandblast guy, and he can take care of these parts for me. Okay, I'm going to make a slight change in direction. As I mentioned earlier, I'm going to make more decisions on the shock towers, and what I want to do is get those media blasted. I have a friend of mine who does sandblasting, and I want to get a bunch of stuff done at the same time. So I'm going to work on getting these air boxes off and removing as much of the firewall as I can, get all that taken off, and then take it to him, and he can blast it all for me, and then we can get a better look at the shock towers and make a more responsible decision, let's say, as to what makes sense. So let's get these other parts off of this car. Okay, so what I've done is I've drilled through this panel and I've drilled through the firewall edge. This area here, because this panel is not being used, this will be on the new side. So I'm not worried about these holes here. I'll have to weld it through these holes onto the new panel. On the firewall, I don't have much choice. I have to make holes or something to separate that. So we're going to try to get this off without beating it up too bad. Hopefully. One down here at the bottom. Gonna make the hole a little bit bigger. Get that loose. This upper one's going to be a little bit of a challenge. Kind of behind the flanges, so I will use my air assist unit. Now up here, see what we can do with this. Okay, so that is attached to the torque box. Yay! It's looking better. There's another weld right there on the edge. Not a good place for it. So I'm gonna get that one. already know I have to rebuild this bottom edge. There's nothing there. Nothing. Woo! All right, so I'm gonna have to fabricate this bottom edge on both sides here, but it's off. That's a good step right there. Whew. As I'm progressing through these steps of removing the upper half of the cowl, the lower half of the cowl, and then of course the air box, there were obviously spot welds on this edge, and some of these spot welds were into the torque box. So you have this inner panel that gets pinched between the air box and the firewall, just like this lower cowl gets pinched between the upper cowl and the top of the firewall. So I got this side apart, and I'm working my way across the top here, separating as I go. And I wanted to show you some things as I get to this side. I need to open up these welds here on this edge. Now all I did on the other side was take a drill and work my way through these. Same way back here, I drilled through these holes, and then of course there's some on the bottom that have to be addressed. But what I noticed was the placement of this firewall. And again, we always talk about dimensions or measurements and all those sort of things, and I pointed out earlier that there's this big gap between the firewall and the torque box, but look at this gap here. So the firewall, in all regular situations, this flange should be out here. This is set back more, it's probably 5/16, maybe 3/8 of an inch behind this pinch weld edge. And what that really meant was the only welds that are holding it are right here on this edge. Just a little tiny bit of spot welds on that edge. So not much is holding this flange, not that it's really that critical, but this just shows you even back then how they put this stuff together. They just got it close and went for it. If you look at this other side, it's much more precise, let's say. These actually are fairly, these are fairly even, and you know, the welds go through that flange. So just an observation, but I'm going to continue separating this other air panel or air duct or whatever you want to call it, and get that out of the way, and then I'll finish up cutting off the upper, say 2/3 of the firewall. Again, I'm not worried about what's behind the torque box. Kind of work my way down as far as I can, just cut off as much as I can and see what I can save later on, but it's coming apart. So as I'm progressing into getting the firewall off, I did get all of this upper panel separated. Pretty thin stuff, not too worried about that. I did drill the holes back here in this air box, and I started coming forward to weld these in this area, or drill these in this area. The problem is I can't get the drill behind this protrusion, right? And I can't come in this way because of this. This is in the way. And I also pointed out that the welds are right on the edge of the firewall. So what I've decided to do is I'm going to break these welds all loose. I've already started. Break these loose and then cut off the firewall all the way across, remove it, and that'll allow me to have access to the back side of these welds that go into that air box. So I think, yeah, I think that's the plan. Ah. I've been having trouble with this switch. Hard to believe. Come on. That should, I think, got one little spot hanging on it, right there. Okay. And I'll point this out. Check your ground. Make sure that ground cable is attached. Otherwise, you'll be fighting with it. All right, let me see what I can do here. It acts like it wants to come loose. Aha! Oh, that looks a lot different now, huh? Man. Okay, with that out of the way, I'm gonna come back in and drill these and separate that air box like I did on the other side. So that should go pretty well, I hope, but we'll find out. Probably have to rebuild the bottom of these, or this one, just like the other side. Not much I can do about it. Okay. Whew. Yeah. It's got more problems than the other one, but I don't know, maybe we'll have to, I don't know, we'll see what we have to do. May end up having to buy one of these just to cut off this bottom half to put it back together. Quite the mess, huh? Well, firewall is out, air boxes are removed, and now it has a giant fresh air intake. You know, this rust gets to these cars and causes so many problems, and you can see even more and more just how bad it was. This side over here, when I was taking the airbox off, although it had some welds down here at this bottom edge, I couldn't really get in to do anything with those besides grind them down a little bit. Now I see that the forward portion of what would be the full rocker, this is even rusted through. So I'm going to have to look at this a little harder when I start taking all of this apart. I know I'm going to save the main portion of the rocker panel, but I may have to take the piece, or keep the piece that came with the Dynacorn sides. So at this point, there's really not much else that I want to take off of this besides the rocker panels. I will be opening up the roof at some point and removing the cross brace that holds the sides together. That is one piece that I can salvage front and rear. None of that, the roof or anything, is any good, so it doesn't really matter at this point. And of course the quarter panels, upper half or upper 2/3. So that'll all come later, but for now I have the this much of the firewall that I can work with, and I have the other pieces there, the shock towers and whatnot. And so along with the air boxes and of course the core support, I'm going to get those to my buddy and try to get all this stuff media blasted and go from there. Well, I think that's enough for this video. There is still some sheet metal I need to remove from the shock towers, the upper half of that one apron, and some other pieces, and I need to get them to my buddy to blast this stuff in. Hopefully it doesn't cause any more problems than what we already see. I'm not sure exactly how we're going to continue on with the shock towers. We are in discussion with that, and we're going to look at them after the media blast so we get a better idea of what's there and what's not. Otherwise, I'm pretty much done with this front section. Not much else I can do at this point. I have debated on whether I want to leave the frame rails on this or just cut them off, and also whether I want to put it on the body cart that I have just to get it out of the way. But really I can put it up on the lift and it's out of my way for the most part. So I'm going to continue on cleaning up some pieces, and obviously there will be more test fitting to come, and look forward to sharing another video with you at some point very soon. At this point, if you would, leave a thumbs up and a comment. Let me know what you think about this video. I want to thank my patrons who continue to support me to help me make these videos. Appreciate them so much. If you're interested in becoming a patron, there's a link in the description below. If not, use my Amazon links. I get a little tiny bit of money out of that if you buy something using one of my links. Otherwise, that's it for this video, and until next time, take care of yourselves. See you.